For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Shotgun Spratling for instant analysis of USC's first pre-practice presser of the 7-game season of 2020. Let me just get it out there. This is weird. We're doing instant analysis via Zoom. Shotgun's here. There's a lot of things happening, and we're going to try and break it all down as best as we can. First off, like I said, Shotgun is here with me, and that is because Dan Weber has decided to retire after 20 seasons covering USC football. Of course, this is sad. He's been my instant analysis partner all these years, but it's time to move on. We'll try to do our best to fill in Dan's shoes, and we'll be rotating instant analysis guests. But it's definitely going to be a change, adds to the weirdness of 2020 for sure. But Shotgun, thank you so much for filling in for Dan in that sense.
Yeah, classy way to start the press conference from Clay Helton to thank Dan Weber for his coverage and his professionalism throughout the years covering USC. And Dan's retiring from covering USC. You know he's not fully retiring, though. He's going to be over there. He's going to be working and doing some stuff. He's back in his home area of Northern Kentucky, the Cincinnati area. So we wish him the best of luck. And hey, we're not going to be able to fill those shoes, but we're going to try to do the best we can to bring you some of the similar stuff that Dan was doing with instant analysis and ghost notes and whatnot. So we'll try to do our best. We're not going to be Dan Weber. We won't have the quite the same ability to throw in some snarky comments about the Pac-12, but we'll try because I dislike Larry Scott a lot too.
We'll try our best. It'll be hard, but we'll try. Now, Shotgun, I mentioned how weird today kind of was. First off, USC hasn't actually practiced yet, but we had a presser. We had a press conference with Clay Helton, quarterback Kedon Slovis, and safety Talanoa Hufanga. Most of the questions went to Clay Helton, of course, when you're going to be off for about 7 months. There's going to be a lot of catching up to do. So this was the time that Clay Helton gave a full status report of the roster, essentially, between injuries, suspensions, and opt-outs. So first up, there are 2 surgeries. Solomon Tuliaupupu is actually getting surgery today, Friday, on a knee injury. And Clay Helton described it as just a heartbreaking development, just because Solomon has dealt with that foot injury for the past 2 seasons and finally felt healthy enough to play on it in this 2020 season, and then suffered a knee injury that apparently was so bad that it needed surgery. So, and then there's Jordan Iosefa. He needs knee surgery again, and that's a concerning point just in the sense that this is now the 3rd surgery on his knee that he will have in this this season. He initially injured that knee at the first week of fall camp in 2019. He was expected to come back for that Notre Dame week in 2019 and then had another setback, had another surgery. This was something we were kind of expecting him to not only come back, but have a good role in Todd Orlando's new defense. Shotgun, what do you make from these 2 linebacker injuries?
I mean, this is huge news for USC to lose a guy like Solomon Tuliaupupu, who've been waiting to get an opportunity to see him on the field. And just like Clay Helton said, it's heartbreaking that he finally was over the foot injury that's kept him out for more than 2 years now, and to suffer a knee injury that's going to cost him the full season. It's hurtful to see, because you hope to see these kids live up to their potential as much as possible. And this is a guy who just has not been able to get on the field, more than 1 or 2 practices in a row. So, disappointing there for that. And Jordan Iosefa, very disappointing in a different way. It just seems like we've seen this in the past where injuries linger. You saw it with Porter Gustin, you've seen it with some other guys. Which is, why are these injuries not being taken care of? Is it the health staff at USC? Is the doctors? I don't know who should be putting the blame on, but it just seems like at USC more than anywhere else, when you have an injury, it can be something that continues to be an issue over time. And Jordan Iosefa, this could be. It sounds like it's a continuation of it. We didn't get full clarification, but it sounds like a continuation of the same knee injury that he suffered last year. Now, granted, this was the 2nd time he'd suffered a patella injury, so that may have something to do with some of the complications that he's had from it. But a 3rd surgery from the same injury is very disappointing to hear. And for USC's linebacker depth, it's a big hit. You lose an explosive young guy that you're expecting big things out of, and you lose your biggest veteran, a guy that has been Mr. Reliable for you that you can move inside or outside in Iosefa. And instead, I think it puts a lot more emphasis on Palia Naitiote. He's going to have to step up and live up to that 5-star billing now with those 2 guys out. I feel like there was a little bit of a parachute for USC. If he wasn't playing great, hey, you got a couple of guys that you feel like can make plays as well. Now he needs to be great. If you want this defense to succeed, and in Todd Orlando's scheme where the linebackers are going to be asked to do some different things, they need him to be great for this defense. He may be the linchpin of this defense. How he goes may determine how the season goes for that defense.
Yeah, that's a great point. I want to dive into more defensive questions, Shotgun, but we got to keep it moving. Next up, surgeries that did happen or continuing to rehab from those surgeries. We reported on USCfootball.com over the summer that Kyle Ford suffered another ACL injury, this time on the opposite knee. So he is still recovering and will be out for this season. Ethan Ray, who had ACL surgery a while back, is still recovering from that. A little bit long on that front, but he will be out as well.
Yeah, two Orange Lutheran teammates, and they've had the same thing has happened to them where they've both torn both of their ACLs now. Ethan Ray, Clay Helton said he don't expect to see him at practice as of yet. There's a couple other players that were kind of in that mix where, when are they going to be back type of thing. But Ethan Ray is one of those guys. Kyle Ford obviously will not be ready to go this season.
There's two hamstrings. Drake Jackson is dealing with a hamstring issue that is expected. Shotgun, you reported to take basically all of camp to heal up. And then Brew McCoy is dealing with a slight hamstring, Clay Helton said. So those are things that to watch out for. And then Elijah Winston reported over the summer as well that he broke his ankle, and that was expected to take 4 to 6 weeks to heal. He is still rehabbing that ankle and is expected to take more time. So that's something that at the time you had hoped that this extended offseason would help him have more time to recover, but clearly he needs more time.
Yeah, there's a couple players that the extra time has helped. It seems like Andrew Voorhees is going to be ready to go. Keaton Slovis was there's concerns about that elbow. But, even with the delay, a guy like Elijah Winston, who's a versatile guy, and again, with the linebacker depth issues that you have with Tuli Alapupu and Iosefa going down, he could be a big part of that. So we'll see if they make a move there, if they move someone around to potentially play the inside linebacker spot or do something there. If Elijah Winston, how long it takes him to get back into that position. There are some options at linebacker and whatnot, but, the injury concerns, they were more than we really expected coming in. We thought we'd see some of these guys get back by now, but Elijah Winston is going to be out. Ethan Ray is going to be out for now. Hamstrings, Drake Jackson, sounds like he's going to miss most of camp is probably the best way to put it. They're being really cautious with him. They want to make sure that he's back and ready. And this is the thing with soft tissue injuries this season in particular. You want to be super cautious right now because once you start, you don't want a guy to have to miss a couple weeks with an injury, with a re-aggravation or something, because that's a third of the season this year if you miss a couple weeks. So I think they're just being extra cautious with him, knowing how important he will be to the defense this season. Brew McCoy, sounds like he was back full speed yesterday from a hamstring, a little bit of aggravated hamstring. So that's good news for USC on the receiver front. Receiver group should be really good still.
Mm-hmm. Now, as far as opt-outs, Clay Helton, of course, confirmed that Elijah Vera Tucker is back with the team after initially opting out once we thought the Pac-12 season was canceled. And then there are new opt-outs that we're learning of. Jake Lichtenstein, Frank Martin, and Bernard Shermer are three guys that will be opting out for this season, but they will return. It's not like Jay Tufele, who opted out and will not return as a Trojan.
Yeah, you get Elijah Vera Tucker back, and that's huge as far as depth and talent standpoint on the offensive line. But you get one guy back, you lose two more. And Frank Martin and Bernard Shermer have not played much in their career at USC, but both those guys are seniors. Those are veteran guys that are in your system that have been in this offense for a year. Now you're having to replace them with some of those young guys. You have those freshmen that are coming in. You had 6 freshmen come in. Somebody's going to have to step up there. So it'll be interesting to see how that works, and who can take that step and move forward.
Now, one more item left on our list. Sophomore wide receiver Manir McLean is suspended from all team activities. We couldn't get a time frame on that suspension from Clay Helton, and he didn't want to go into team details. So that's something to just note. We'll see what happens going forward.
Yeah, you never want to see a guy get suspended. Obviously, Manir McLean, the wide receiver, there were question marks coming in if he would be healthy But I think that it points more to the craziness of the season and how important it is to keep everyone in line, not only with the potential of a suspension or an injury, but if you have someone test positive in the contact tracing, how quickly you can lose depth at a position, how you can come really thin. And Clay Helton talked a little bit about it with the offensive line and losing, with having Frank Martin and Bernard Shermer opt out, two older guys, that we're going to have to build this. He said we're going to have to build this from the bottom, and basically you got to be prepared to have everyone on the roster contribute this year. So I think that's something that's going to happen at a number of different positions. And hey, Kyle Ford out, Manir McClain, wide receivers, there's not a ton of bodies there. There's some really talented players there, but this was something that was the case last year too, especially after Manir went down with his injury, and Kyle Ford was still trying to come back. Brew McCoy out. If you lose another guy or two to whatever the case may be, you might be having to change your systems, just like last year when USC lost a running back. So something to keep an eye on going forward is how specific positions are affected by a variety of different factors this year. You look at offensive line, you lost two older guys. Defensive line, you had two guys opt out there, Jacob Lichtenstein and then Jay Tefele, who's leaving for the NFL. And then the receivers, which we talked about, and the linebackers with the injuries. So there's already some positions of concern. Now, most of those positions, USC does have some depth. It's not as bad as their quarterback depth, but it just points out that how quickly things can change.
Mm-hmm. And you specifically asked Clay Helton about what they're looking for on the offensive line. And I thought it was notable that he said, no one's really going to have a home just yet. You got to double train between injuries and the pandemic. Jalen McKenzie at right tackle and left tackle, Elijah Vera Tucker at both left guard and left tackle. I mean, it doesn't seem like even if you have that starting five, they're going to be rotating just to make sure that everyone can make it through 7 straight weeks of football.
Yeah, I was trying to get a little information about who's going to start where. Let's get to the baseline where we think guys might start. And Clay was not giving away anything. I mean, Elijah Vera Tucker coming back, we assume he's going to get the first shot at left tackle. The only other thing that we really know is that Brett Nealon is going to be the center.
Yeah.
The rest of it after that is kind of up in the air. Justin Dietich could very well play a guard position. You look at Andrew Voorhees and Jalen McKenzie, Liam Jimmons. All three of those guys have played guard and tackle in their career. Liam Douglas has played on both sides of the center. He's played on left guard and right guard. He might be in the mix. And then those young guys, where do they fit in? So I think there's a lot of question marks there. And he said they're going to double train. That's something that Tim Drevno likes to do anyways. It's not anything new there. But it's going to be even more important this year because – it's not just, and we always say there's going to be an injury on the offensive line. There always is. It's not just worrying about, okay, who gets injured and who fills in. It's, okay, does someone test positive? Is there contact tracing? Do we lose two guys at the same position? Who can fill in? There's a lot of different variables this season than there are normally.
Yeah, and that's especially critical at a position like offensive line where you're really in close contact, as opposed to like maybe a wide receiver. You have a little bit more space as far as contact tracing. A couple more points, Shaka, before we wrap it up. I don't want to make this a podcast. I know we definitely could if we wanted to. Drake Jackson noted on the media guide that he has shifted to the outside linebacker position. I know there's some skepticism whether or not, the media guide is true in that sense. Clay Helton was asked about Drake Jackson. What do you see going forward for him and where he fits in Todd Orlando's defense?
It's not just that he's moved to outside linebacker. He's about 30 pounds lighter than he played at last year. He was at 275 last year. He's around 245, 250, Clay Helton said. So this is an interesting one, how exactly he's going to fit. I think they're going to do a lot of things to focus for him. They're going to do some specific things, and it's not just he's going to be a cog in the defense. He's going to be a key part of it that they're going to be looking to exploit some matchups with him. And that's what Clay Helton was talking about with him. He said he really fits Todd Orlando's scheme of being able to bounce in and out between a 3-man, a 4-man front, that he can play that outside linebacker in a 3-4, or he can put his hand on the ground, or just be a stand-up defensive end in a 4-man front. So I think they really love the versatility that he brings. Now, dropping that weight, Clay Helton, the word he used multiple times talking about Drake Jackson was explosive. Said, with that weight gone, he's showing that he's more explosive, and that's what makes him such a unique NFL prospect, is that he can do multiple things for you in a defense. So we'll see where he comes. But again, as we said, even if we were being able to watch practice, which we aren't right now, but if we were, he's not going to be out there to begin with. They're going to be very protective of him. So, we may not really find out, the true identity of this defense and what they're going to do with Drake Jackson until we see it on November 7th against Arizona State, bright and early at 9 a.m.
Yeah, just another quirk of the season, just kind of not knowing until maybe November 7th. So we'll see. Something that happened today for the first time, USC was able to start their Quidel testing. If you remember, that is the testing corporation that the Pac-12 partnered with that actually got things back on track as far as the Pac-12 being able to play in 2020. That testing basically takes an hour and a half, Clay Helton said. That was the first time they were able to do it today. They hope to get it done by 10 and then play in the afternoon. So it's a process. Clay said that he was a guinea pig. He's been the one who's been trying to figure that out. And from what I was told, not all of the Pac-12 has been able to actually set up their system. So I was told it was a little feat of USC's medical staff, athletic department, really partnering together to really get that off the ground and help things go smoothly. And that especially helps Los Angeles County, who has been stricter with the cohort numbers and making sure that everyone is safe and healthy. As you know, Stanford and Cal are still having issues with their counties up in the north. So it's credit to USC for getting that going and getting that going as training camp starts for the first day.
Yeah, listening on Wednesday at the Pac-12 webinar, there were still multiple schools that were talking about, we think we'll have that in the next couple of days. And then also there was Cal, Stanford, and Colorado saying, we think we might be able to practice in the next couple of days from the local government allowing them to. So the Pac-12, different schools are having different challenges. Obviously, Arizona State, USC's opening opponent, has not had as many challenges. They've been able to get on the field more. They were able to practice more in the spring. They have an advantage. So USC, being able to start on time and get going from the get-go here rather than waiting an extra day or two like some schools may have to do depending on what's happened in the last 24, 48 hours is really important, I think. Because Clay Helton even said every practice is going to be super important right now, more so than you would have in a normal season, just because of the layoff. And also, the timing is so different. There's a lot of different factors and variables this season. So each day of practice and with a new defense is going to be really critical for USC. And speaking of the Quidel testing, Talanoa Hufanga called it a blessing. He said he just wants to do whatever he can just to play ball. We didn't hear too much from Talanoa or Keaton Slovis in this one since there was so much news to be delivered from Clay Helton. But both of those guys just talked about the excitement factor. Finally getting back out with their teammates. I mean, Keaton Slovis said they've been able to do the last, a week or so, they've been able to do a little bit of 11-on-11, like full offense when the cohort's limitations were pulled back a little bit. But competition, getting to go against the defense, he's jacked up about it. I don't know if he was pointing his finger at Talanoa Hufanga telling him he's coming after him or anything in the Zoom call, but you could kind of feel that vibe. They're excited about the competition and being able to get back out and face that defense and see what those new guys got. I know Keaton Slovis is probably licking his chops to see, let's see what this defense is really about.
Oh, of course. No, you brought up my point, Chuck, and that I was going to add as my final point. If you weren't sure, USC basically this whole time since they started returning to campus at the end of June, they've been in cohorts, little groups of 6 to 12 people, and the same 6 to 12 people. So something that Keaton Slovis had mentioned in earlier press conferences, they're not really seeing guys that they would normally see. They're not having that big locker room energy. And so this is kind of the first real emergence this week of group activities, a full team activity, and they seem really excited to get back to semi-normal football in that sense.
Yeah, and just imagine if you're an offensive guy and you haven't been able to see Elijah Griffin dance all, for 6 or 7 months. How disappointed are you if that's one of your teammates haven't been able to check that out? But no, there's still going to be some limitations. Clay Helton talked about how they've got 4 different practice areas that they may take advantage of. So there's no student managers out there. So there's going to be it's going to be unique still, but they are definitely excited to get back out there. And we're excited to hear, the news as it comes. It's finally, to me, it finally feels like it's football season. This week with the amount of caffeine consumed by me and you, it definitely feels like it's finally back to football season.
Yeah, it definitely does. Just a little schedule update. The next time we'll hear from someone is Clay Helton on Monday, bright and early. We will not have media availability on Saturday or Sunday. We don't really fully know the practice schedule in that sense either. And this was a weird one just because, like I said at the top, this was a pre-practice presser, so we don't really know what's happened as far as practicing because it hasn't even happened yet as of recording. So I'm sure we'll have more updates as the week goes along. But Shotgun, I know you want to add something, but any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Yeah, and nothing's going to happen really in the next practice or so because they have to do the acclimation period where it's just shells. But it'll be good for them to get back out there. It's still not true football until you put the pads on, in my opinion. But to be able to get back in that routine is really important. And how quickly USC can lock into that could be really big for how the season goes because a lot is riding on game one. You get past Arizona State, everything's pretty smooth sailing from there through the scheduled season. So, but you gotta be able to be ready to go bright and early, and you gotta be set. You gotta have your jaw set, as Clay Helton would say, and you be ready to go from the beginning. And that's something USC struggled with in the past, the season opener. So we'll see if with all these different challenges, if that helps them maybe even lock in a little bit better this year.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. Alrighty. Pretty crazy. We're back, Shotgun, covering football. Make sure you stay tuned to uscfootball.com. We have it all there, all your updates that you would need. But that's Shotgun. I'm Keely, and we'll see y'all on Monday.